Joining me now is my good friend Nicolle Flint. Welcome, Nicolle. There's so much to get through, and we've got 5 minutes, 5 topics. The floor is yours. I'm just going to bowl up the tough balls and you can hit them in whatever direction you want. Let's take it off. Number one, a lot of developments out of today's National Cabinet meeting. One, of course, was that home quarantine is going to be trialled here in South Australia for fully vaccinated travellers. Nicolle, is this a case of they're so bad at hotel quarantine that nothing worse can happen, or is this a good move?
Well, that's a very cynical approach, Corey. Look, I was really encouraged when I read about this earlier today that there would be some potential changes to allow people who are fully vaccinated to quarantine at home. Very sensible, risk-based approach. However, I was a little bit discouraged when I saw the detail come out of the National Cabinet meeting. We don't know when the trial will start, and it's going to be a very limited trial to start with. Why I do think it's good for us to allow people who have been fully vaccinated to quarantine at home. It'll give people a really good incentive to get vaccinated. They'll be able to travel overseas again, which is fantastic, to see family, friends, things like that. And it will also take the pressure off hotel quarantine, as you've rightly highlighted.
Yeah, and I'm cynical, Nicolle, because I'm on day 13 of my 14-day ISO period because I went to Queensland for 2 days. Still dirty about that. Anyway, let's move on. We'll go to question number 2. There is a growing push to raise the age of criminal responsibility in Australia to 14 years. Now, Australia has been condemned by over 30 countries worldwide for holding children as young as 10 criminally responsible for their actions. What do you make of this?
Well, Corey, as always, you need to do a bit of research and find out who those countries are and how they've come to the position that they're criticising a wonderful nation like Australia. I believe this resolution, this recommendation has come from your very good mates at the United Nations. Now, Corey, I don't know how you lasted 3 months over with the UN. I don't think I'd last 3 minutes. And I believe the criticisms come from the United Nations Human Rights Council, which includes noted humanitarian countries like China and Russia and Libya. So I'm not willing for Australia to be lectured by countries such as those that I've just mentioned. What is important to note is that the age of responsibility here in Australia is the same for the UK and New Zealand. There is a very high bar that prosecutors have to meet in order to actually prosecute a young person aged between 10 and 14 years. So it's pretty hard to get that prosecution up anyway. And most importantly, Corey, rather than lecturing people like Australia or lecturing countries like Australia about this, we should actually be focusing on what's led these kids to end up in these situations and do our very best to help them. You know, this shouldn't be about the cure or the punishment. This should be about saving young people's lives and keeping them on the straight and narrow. And we need to ignore every diktat of the UN. Now, quickly, former Prime Minister John Howard says we've got a moral obligation to provide asylum to Afghanis who worked alongside Australian troops. It's gone from just interpreters to those who participate in aid or other assistance missions for Australians. Should we be doing this, Nicolle? Yes, I think most Australians would agree with Mr Howard, and I do believe that the immigration options are there, especially for refugee status, and it sounds like most of these wonderful Afghans who worked with our soldiers would meet our rules around refugee status. I think it's probably most MPs' frustrations, and you probably experienced it when you're a senator, Corey, that sometimes the immigration process can be too slow. So if it needs to be hurried up, it should be. However, I think that our most important role as parliamentarians is to make sure that Australians are safe and that we've done a case-by-case analysis of who we're granting the privilege of citizenship to, and if people are found to meet the careful and stringent requirements that we have, of course we should welcome them to Australia. But we've also got a duty to our citizens to make sure that people are coming here for the right reasons.
Yep, all right. What about the European Union, Nicolle? They're exempting private jets and cargo flights from their global warming tax. Now, let's understand, private jets are very polluting, but they're the chosen transport of all those who attend Davos and the World Economic Forum and all these other international sort of pious lecturers by the elites. What do you make of that?
Yes, well, Corey, seems like one rule for the rich and one rule for just our mere mortals here doing our best to get by day to day. I have absolutely no problem actually with banning private jets, really, especially when I know that people like Richard Branson sort of jets about all the time on his private jet and he wants to ban beef. Well, mate, if you want to ban beef, then I might start a campaign to ban your private jets, Richard Branson.
Okay, I'm going to forgive you for that because he wants to ban beef. I've got 30 seconds. I need to know, there's been a commentary about the heavier police presence across Western Sydney. It is racist. That's idiotic, isn't it?
Yes, it is, Corey. And honestly, I do not envy the task that our police have throughout this whole COVID crisis. They're doing what they've been instructed to do by their superiors. I think they're doing a great job, and I really hope that that this issue gets dismissed as it should, because of course it's not racist, Corey. It's not racist at all. They're just doing their job. And honestly, I've always said you never have a problem with police if you're not doing the wrong thing. So do the right thing, you won't have any issues.
All right, love your work, Nicolle Flint.